Hello and welcome to Aycorp Business Spotlight with my guest today, my good friend, Dustin Mayer. Dustin, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Barry.
Pleasure to have you. Good friend of ours here at Aycorp Media. I want to personally thank you for supporting Aycorp Media our first year. You've supported us throughout the whole high school football, volleyball, basketball season. You've brought all these sports into Southeast Missouri households, and thank you. You took a chance on us, and hopefully it paid off for all of us, because here we appreciate it.
Yeah, well, I appreciate the opportunity to sponsor too. I think it's important to have a good local coverage, especially down here in the Boot Hill that's specified just at us. And so to be able to cover those teams and provide those to some of the people that can't make those games, especially in a pandemic, we were glad to help out. And it's a great sponsorship opportunity too. And you guys run a top-notch organization. So.
But let's get into Mayor Law Office,
Yes,
one
sir.
of my favorite law offices in the world.
Glad to hear it.
So first, Dustin, tell us a little bit about yourself, your family, where you're from.
Yeah, born and raised in Dexter, went to Dexter High School, graduated and went to SEMO for undergraduate, and University of Missouri School of Law, and was glad to catch a few Pinkle football games up there where I met my lovely wife, Ashley, and we graduated and practiced in St. Louis for a while. I was at the Attorney General's office, and then had the opportunity to move back home, and I jumped on that. We both enjoy the outdoors, hunting, fishing, and so I was the assistant prosecutor for Pemiscot County for about 3 years, and then opened my own law practice about 7 or 8 years ago now. And we've got 3 children. Lillian, our oldest, is 8, or about to turn 8 next week, and then Abigail is 5, and Lewis is 2, and then of course parents both born and raised in Dexter, Dad, Rob, and Nancy. So,
Dustin, talking about your family, you've kind of had an uncanny view of the legal and political system. Your dad started his career out in politics as a state rep, a state senator. Now he's our local judge. And a lot of people do know it, some people don't, but your mom's, I think, the president of the school board.
Yes, I don't know if she's president, but she's on there, and she may have served as president, but she's taught for 32 years, something around that, and retired and has served on the school board for, I think, over a decade now.
But your dad was also an attorney, and did that have some type of bearing on your career path?
Yeah, absolutely. Tremendous respect for my father, everything he's accomplished. You know, he started out ag, growing up on the farm, working at the local manufacturer, Arvin, and was laid off in the recession in the early 90s, and went back to school and went to law school. And so it's a great inspiration to me, what all he's accomplished. So yeah, he had a heavy role in it, and Mom encouraged it too. And I was probably a little too ornery in school, so they knew I either needed to go to law school or maybe I wouldn't make it, you know. So
what specifically made you choose that career path, being an attorney?
Well, in addition to the role that Dad played in it, I really always liked Dexter and Stoddard County. I wasn't one of the ones that would always wanted to move away in high school. I always wanted to move back, but also make a good living and be able to move back if I wanted to. And I knew that law school would give me those options. And I was always interested in the law and politics in high school as well. So.
What do you feel like, Dustin? I know you've represented me on many different things, contracts. What do you feel like your expertise is in law?
Well, it's a small town practice, so there's probably a couple areas. In addition to business and contract law, stuff like that, we do quite a bit of personal injury, workers' comp, and then probably criminal defense would be the other main areas. Is there ever
a certain type of case where you say, I just can't help you, somebody will represent you better, I don't have that expertise? Is there a part of the law that you're not comfortable with?
There's many areas of the law. Actually, the law is wide encompassing, so bankruptcies. I've got another associate, Sawyer Smith, who I refer some stuff to, some family law stuff, Social Security, disability, several other areas.
What do you feel like the most rewarding part of your career is?
It's definitely being able to help people out. No one wants to be on the other side of the table from a lawyer, so it's being able to help people in those times of crises, and then to be able to see them come out the other end better people, or avoiding, catastrophic medical bills in a car wreck, things like that. It's really rewarding to help people and get them the justice they deserve.
Dustin, you've really got to see both sides of the law. You said you were assistant prosecutor in Pembroke County. How's that different when you opened up your own business? I mean, a lot of people, when they start their own business, they're scared. They're like, am I going to get any clients? What's going on? I had this cushy paycheck coming in every week or every month when I was assistant prosecutor. So tell us a little bit about that change that happened in your life when you said, I can do this, I'm going out on my own.
Yeah, I was kind of fortunate, really. Jeremy Lytle and Bill Carter, who were both prosecutors at the time, started to let me gradually work. So I would actually wake up at 3 or 4 a.m., drive down there and work, an 8-hour day down there, and come back in the afternoon and work the afternoons up here for about a year there. And that was a really helpful and a nice thing for them to do, and I'm always been appreciative of that. So that helped. But there is always the nervousness of it, the initial getting the initial money up to do that, and all from the start. I mean, even Alan Hedrick gave me the spot there in his building initially, so grateful to him as well.
And your wife probably said, you're doing what?
Yeah, she's always been really supportive, and I'm really fortunate to have her. So she was always really, really helpful. She practices a little different area of the law, more transactional, national transactions, business transactions and developments, but was very, very supportive.
So Dustin, what's one thing you can say to a potential customer client out there that's looking for a local attorney?
Well, I think you want someone you can get in contact with, someone you can go to their office, someone someone you see at church, or someone you see down at the ball field. It's very important to build that trust in an attorney, because you're entrusting your whole livelihood in a lot of cases with that person. So to do that with someone 2.5 hours, 3 hours away, or someone that never comes and meets you meet you in person, just over the phone. I wouldn't want to do that, and I wouldn't advise most people to do that. You can meet me in person and come size me up, and if you don't like me, there's plenty of other local attorneys as well.
Well, that's one key thing that I look for in an attorney, somebody that will actually call you back. There's so many attorneys that just put things off, and you made me look really good one day after my dad passed away. My mom had a question that only an attorney could answer, so I said, Mom, I'll call Dustin Mayer. This is like in July or August. You didn't answer the phone. You made me look bad for 30 seconds, and you called me right back. So I said, Mom, he'll call right back, I promise you. So yes, it's very important, that communication between attorney and client. And that's one thing I can say, that it's a compliment. Your specialty is you do get back with your client. So I appreciate it. Yes,
well, I appreciate the compliment. That is one thing that I do try to stress, is to get back to them within 24 hours. I try. I can't always do it depending on the schedule or if there's trials pending, but generally I try to. And I've got a great assistants too there that help me with that too, and they're very helpful people too.
Well, Dustin, thank you for sharing today with us about Mayor Law Office, and thank you for all the great support you have done this year with Aycorp Media. We kind of launched this first year. You took a chance on us, and you brought a lot of sports into people's households this year. So we're not done yet, though.
Okay.
We're going to start talking about your other business it's really new to you. It's new to me. It's Stoddard County Title.
Yeah, started that about 3 years ago now, so it seems new, but we're kind of really got our footing under us and been going pretty strong for a couple of years now. And I knew there was an opportunity to do that. It meshed well with the law office. There was a lot of crossover there, and I had a lot of good people like Joe Watson help me get it started, and he still comes in from time to time, and we talk to him pretty frequently still. So
if there's one veteran in the title business, it's Joe Watson, right?
Yes, he is the king of title in Stoddard County, I would say. He did it for over 30 years, I believe, owned the countywide abstract. And so we're in the same building, actually. It's a different business. We didn't buy the business, but we did buy the building, and started Stoddard County Title and Escrow there, located just by the office, and post office there in downtown Dexter.
So Dustin, let's make this a little bit educational for our audience. Why does someone need title insurance? Why go to a title company? Everybody buys something in their life, right?
Yes, everyone buys something. That's for most people, the biggest investment they're going to make, whether it's a farm, a family farm, a house. Financially, the biggest investment you're going to make. And it's not like a car title that I sign over and give to you. It's all papered at the recorder's office, and there's a variety of things that can affect title. That's even not at the recorder's office, including judgments. There's a lot of people will get default judgments and not realize that that's a lien on title. So you could have a situation where you buy a house and you think you own it, but that deed of trust didn't get paid off, or there's a judgment against that, and those people would have what's called priority or have a greater superior interest in that property than yourself, and it could jeopardize your ownership of that.
So the buyer needs title insurance?
Yes.
Tell us about that. Why does the buyer need title insurance?
Yeah, that's a little bit of what we covered, and a lot of times, well, every bank requires it, number one, but even if it's a cash deal, if you take that property, they give you a general warranty deed and there's some sort of defect in the title, you can go back on the seller, but tracking down the seller may be a problem, or the seller may be deceased, so that gives you an option if there's an issue with the title that you have an insurance policy to go back and collect on.
Why does the seller need title insurance?
Well, the seller needs title insurance because the seller is executing a general warranty deed, which means they're warranting good title to the buyer, so that if they unwittingly don't know that they don't have good title and then they warrant to their buyer they have good title and they don't, then that buyer is going to come back and sue them. So that ensures that the warranty they're giving to the buyer is good, and so they don't have to worry about someone coming back and suing them later down the line.
So the bank, the seller, and the buyer, all three, it's important to have title insurance.
Extremely important, yes.
And if someone's buying a $50,000 house and you're guaranteeing or you're giving title insurance on that house, something goes wrong, they can get their money back, correct?
Yes, correct.
But it's really interesting because you can kind of go back when you're researching title work, you can kind of see the history of that house, the history of that land, correct?
Yeah, it is. And one of the really neat stories probably is when I first went out, my title searcher was going back on a tract of property and searching it and searching it and searching it. And she came back and said, "Hey, I found this deed. It may be, somebody who is related to you from back in the 1930s. It was a Lewis Mayer." And I said, "Yeah, actually, that's my great-great-grandpa. That's who I named my youngest and only son after." And so it was really cool. I'm a kind of a history buff. Mm-hmm. So it's really interesting. You see a lot of old names that you recognize in town too when you do it. So yeah.
You don't really get the history like you used to back in the old days when what they done title opinions, attorneys done title opinions. You used to get the whole deed. Like
right.
Now you just get 3 or 4 sheets of paper that's title insurance. Which brings me to my next question. I really like to talk about title insurance. I'm sure it's boring to 95% of the population, but there is a lot of history involved, like you said. If you're a history buff, it's very interesting. I remember, I believe it was 1996, Dustin, the very first farm that I purchased, an attorney gave me a title opinion.
Yep.
And that was right at the end of title opinions. It was just the attorney's opinion that you had a clear title, right?
Yes.
So the evolution of title work has evolved over the last 25 to 30 years. Tell us a little bit about that. Have you ever done a title opinion, or was that before your time?
That was before my time, but I've had several attorneys, including Judge Mitchell, tell me about that, and Jim Tweedy talk about doing title opinions and updating abstracts. That really got phased out with a lot of the regulation with banks, and when they started packaging off, especially those mortgages and selling them, and they had local attorneys trying to track those down if there was an issue to make a claim. So that's really kind of what led to those being phased out. And to my knowledge, I don't think anyone does them anymore, but it is interesting because we do get them more frequently than you would expect, those abstracts, and yeah, you can see it all the way back, the chain of title and everything. And we have the same thing, we just don't provide it, so we do that same research on all those deeds all the way back 100 years, but it's just generally not included. But if they wanted it, then we would be more than happy to give them a copy of those things.
So since you're not giving your opinion anymore, they're actually getting an insurance policy, correct?
Correct, yeah.
Which makes me feel a little bit better, because sometimes your opinion might not be, you might not want to give your opinion on some of these titles, right?
Right, yeah. Yeah, it's got benefits and drawbacks, you know what I mean, I would say, but generally it's probably for the better because you've got an underwriter that's a big national corporation, so you know it's going to be financially solid, you know, and you'll always be able to track them down, whereas, you know what I mean, attorneys pass away or they move on or they do this or they do that. There's a little bit more turnover to each individual office, you know, so in that regard it's been better.
So the regulations have changed, and that's what's got us away from title opinions. Like you said, the attorney may pass away. It's hard to go back and wonder what they were doing on a piece of property 30 years ago if they passed away. So this insurance policy is really worth a lot more.
Yeah, yeah, it's probably a little more solid, I think, and easier to track, and so I guess that's kind of what the regulators' opinions of it was, anyways. And so I would guarantee probably some older attorneys who would disagree with that, but yeah, I think it just simplifies it really.
Dustin, you've got a uncanny view of the process of purchasing real estate, house, farm, whatever, business, because you're an attorney. You can make the client the purchase contract, and you can also close the transaction for them. So I feel like that gives you an advantage over other title companies and attorneys because it's a one-stop shop. You can do it all in the same house if you want to.
Yes, you're right, and that's kind of what I was alluding to earlier, is there's synergies or crossover there between a law office and a title company, and we are unique in that regard. There are a few in the region, but none in Stoddard County that have that advantage, and so we are able to take it, like seller financing, for instance, too, becomes a kind of a next step of complication as far as legal documents you'll need in addition to title work. So, or whether it's just a purchase through a bank and you need a contract, we can, like you say, from beginning to end, facilitate that process.
You're watching that process all the way through if need be for the client.
Oh yes, correct.
And just from my personal experience, you can walk from your office straight into the closing room in 10 seconds.
That's right, you can.
Big advantage. Dustin, thanks for being here today. Thanks for being a big sponsor of Aycorp Media. Excited about the future.
Appreciate it, thanks.
Thank you. Dustin Mayer, ladies and gentlemen.